Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time with a quote from 2,300 years ago from Herophilus, the Greek medic. He stated, "When health is absent, wisdom cannot reveal itself, art cannot manifest, strength cannot fight, wealth becomes useless, and intelligence cannot be applied." What ideas come to mind? What kind of things does that spark, Peyton?
Good to be back with you, my friend. Welcome to the humbling reality of being a body mind. So often we have these experiences of feeling competent and strong and on top of the world and capable and all of these things, but we are never completely in control over the conditions of our strength. All of it in the end depends on the foundation of the functioning of our body, so much of which is totally outside of our control, or at least portions of which are totally outside of our control. There could be a tumor growing inside of my brain right now that I'm not even yet aware of. That's just a tiny, tiny little piece that's growing and growing and growing. And there could be little issues that pop up out of nowhere that are nobody's fault, but just a part of the random lottery of being an animal that exists in the modern world, living a life in a body that's made of cells. And there's an old saying that says the healthy man wants 10,000 things, the sick man wants one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this, to me, when I'm healthy, is an admonition toward gratitude and not taking the baseline conditions of my flourishing for granted, or realizing that these baseline conditions of potential for strength, wisdom, well-being, creativity, etc., are not guaranteed, and they could be taken away from me at any moment. And even our proclivity to feel like we've totally earned where we're at or what we're doing or how strong we are, how good we are at something, it often overlooks this baseline reality that we are dependent upon this fragile equilibrium of 10,000 levels of homeostasis that must continue functioning perfectly in our body for us to make our way in the world, continue to exist, apply any form of life force toward things, and to experience any degree of well-being. And so this fragile and incredible system of systems is something that we should treat as foundational and not take for granted, and not take for granted in terms of forgetting to appreciate all that we have gratitude or all that we have to be thankful for, but also not take for granted in terms of taking good care of it, being a good steward of it, treating our body like it is a temple of the Holy Spirit. This thought that we have something precious, human life, this human body mind, this system, and that it's not something to casually throw here and there. It's not something to treat as our 94th priority and kind of use and abuse it and not take good care of it. But rather, this is an opportunity and something that we should treat as semi-sacred, to appreciate and to honor the health of our system, and to be intentional about the habits and circumstances that we cultivate to honor and protect that system. How do you think about health in your own life and the ups and downs of it, or what this means about our perspective?
Yeah, like you said, treating it as a temple because it's a sacred thing to have. Because if you are healthy, you want so much. But if you are ill, you exactly want one thing, like you
Hmm.
said. And this is just so true. That's why we have to be good stewards of our body and of our mind as well. And also recognize how they are connected. Recently, I've been on a festival and there was a workshop taking place where there was this music therapist from Zurich, and she had a guy there who played the cello and played the piano and so on. And then she made this guided meditation and guided movement meditation practice, so to say. And there was movement of the whole body involved. There was visualizations involved, and you could really feel how the energy was flowing again, and how stuck stuff which was stuck got released just through the application of movement, imagination at the same time, moving the body and moving the mind to a place where kind of this regeneration could happen. And I was like feeling these emotions and feeling the energy flow and the release of these stuck states which come from a depth of your inner being where you feel, oh, now I feel just so much better. It's like after you had a good run, after you had a good workout, you instantly feel better. And same applies to your emotional well-being as well. If you had a good laugh, or even if you had a good cry, maybe a cry out of joy or maybe whatever, you feel differently afterwards because you engage your whole system with it. And therefore, it's so important to treat this body mind, this heart mind, as a temple. And what do you do in the temple? You honor it. You carry goods to it which are not rotten stuff. You won't honor a god with rotten tomatoes. You will honor it with the finest meat of a goat. At least the ancient people did that. So there's this appreciation component of it, this self appreciation component as well, to a point where it comes from a deep place of self-acceptance, of self-love, which is a foundation to apply also to connections with others. And therefore, you have this system which you treat well, and it will treat you well at the same time. Whenever I start moving in the morning, when I take a round and run around for 10 minutes, like a jogging round, then I feel the rewards the whole day. If I don't do it, I feel this nagging clown on my shoulder always saying, oh, when do you want to run? And how do you feel right now? And it's like much better if I move. How is it with your system, Peyton? How do you keep your system healthy? What kind of strategies do you use for that?
You pointed to it. It really comes down, I believe, toward first, let's learn cause and effect and pay attention to cause and effect. And I would say that AI in particular is the greatest gift ever given to the self-taught, in terms of, if you want to actually say, okay, I feel this way, I want to feel this way, I'm doing this set of things, I observe this cause and effect of various things that I've tried, just dumping all of that context into any one of the modern state-of-the-art AI tools and asking for specific feedback on what's the low-hanging fruit to improve our health and well-being, super worthwhile. And it's totally there to learn. It's very easy to provide all this context that you can, and then to receive very good actionable information that's prioritized to the easiest low-hanging fruits that you can do. So that's a step that I think is just right there for people to take. But in terms of the big picture, once you learn what yields what outcomes, what's the priority, what are the most important things, and of course, starting small, one piece at a time, not trying to boil the ocean or make it unsustainable. Then it comes down in large part to our habit manipulation. What is our capacity to decide that we're going to do something consistently and then do it consistently? Because that's kind of what health requires, or at least proactive health often requires. Many forms of what's good for us are things like good diet, good exercise, good sleep, and good level of activity, and of course sun exposure, this type of a thing. There's many pieces, but many of them come down to habit manipulation. If you're trying to get healthy, you don't want to try to cram like a 48-hour long workout and get your whole year's worth of workouts in all at once. It's not going to work. It's not the same as having 96 half-hour workouts that are spread every third or fourth day throughout the year. It's actually the habits, these small activities that must be repeated over time in order for us to actually manage our health and well-being proactively. At least a lot of the aspects of managing it well come down to our ability to manipulate our habits. And so treating habit manipulation like it is a meta skill, a skill that is upstream of our ability to do many things, but one of which is manage our own health, gives it I would say, a valid weight to its utility. It's incredibly useful in our life. And if we lack that foundation, it's a very worthwhile foundation to learn and play around with tools and figure out how we can improve this meta skill of habit manipulation. I think the last piece in terms of like learning cause and effect, habit manipulation, this thing that cannot be overstated in as one component that is a foundation of our mental and physical health and well-being is sleep. Sleep is something that the culture has shifted a lot in the last 10 or 20 years for good reason, and really glad to see that tide turned. But it
Mm,
is almost impossible to overstate how essential sleep quality and quantity and consistency is for most elements of our systems functioning well. It really is important. It really is not something that we can go without. And it's something that I believe many people have blind spots in terms of what is the right way to, or what is the right level of priority for this, or how much is adequate, or whatever. But being intentional about our sleep hygiene, so to speak, and our sleep habits and routine is the baseline that will make everything else much, much easier, smoother, and it's free and accessible. Obviously, it's easier said than done in certain life
mhm.
circumstances. Many things will get in the way, and it's not something to be
Especially at night.
legalistic about in 100%, but it is something to honor. Like sleep is very important for this, and it's important for long-term outcomes as well as short-term outcomes. The
Mm,
the last note that I'll share on this, moving beyond what to do about it, is the reality that we're so vulnerable to our system not working well, or some part of our system getting thrown off, and us falling into illness or disease or these conditions that can be debilitating for our body mind. This is an important reminder for us as we walk through our lives to treat everybody that we run into with compassion, because you actually don't know what people are going through. And a lot of people have serious health conditions that they are battling, that they are in serious pain, that their energy is sapped on a continual basis. These things can be chronic. These things can be really a nightmare that they're subjected to through no fault of their own. And it's
mhm,
going on behind the surface of that person that you just walked by at the grocery store, and that person that is driving weird that's bothering you, or this person that made this comment on the internet or whatever. I think the reminder that people are going through it in terms of health all the time under the surface that we're not even seeing is really helpful for us to have a little bit more gap between our temptations to judge and our, I guess, our habit or our response to how we encounter. We actually don't know what is the causes and conditions of whatever somebody's going through, or how they're manifesting in this moment. So, with that said, what would you say are the core principles of managing our own health, and then just recognizing this force playing out throughout the humans that we encounter in our life?
Well, you said it very well that it's a good reminder that we can have more kindness towards people who come to us with a negative attitude. When I see old people, especially, and they tell me about their pain they have and that it doesn't stop. And they still try to maintain a good attitude towards it, but you see sometimes the energy is sapped by them. And so, whenever you meet an old person who's like grumpy, it probably has a reason because they have pain, chronic pain, whatever. So, just be a little bit kinder towards them and treat them with compassion. That's a beautiful reminder. Thank you, Peyton. Very, very well said. And what I think is the ways to manage good health and to be a good steward is to think the other way around as well. The via negativa is the key word here again. Like, don't do the bad stuff with your body. Don't have a too big a lack of sleep. Sleep enough. So, and don't sleep too little. This is what I wanted to say. Don't sleep too little. And then
Right.
everything will probably be all right. Don't sleep too much. And then probably everything will be all right. Don't eat shit. Then probably everything will be all right. Don't eat too much food and don't eat too little food. Then probably everything will be all right. So, a big portion of treating it as a very simple approach, the 20-80 rule here in this regard, is, in my opinion, leaving out the bad stuff. Yeah. So this is probably the simplest boiled down principle that I can share. Don't do hard drugs. Don't smoke 10 packs of cigarettes a day. Don't drink 10 beers a day. Don't Yeah, you get what I mean. So first, primum non nocere. First, do no harm. This is the principle which all doctors sign their name underneath it. We should also sign our name underneath it. Primum non nocere nostros corporis. First, do no harm to our bodies. And then we can do whatever it takes. And then we can move. And then we can eat well. But first is don't do no harm. And then sleep well enough. And then it is to watch out how you move. And then you should watch out what you eat as well. I think this is the hierarchy as well. So because you realize it instantly when you had a bad night of sleep, well, kinda, you can kinda cheat yourself out of it for maybe one day if you drink enough coffee or take 10 grams of creatine or whatever. But it is a tax you apply to your body and your mind. And the next day you sleep bad, it will have a bigger tax and it will triple down and then you will build up a lot of debt with that. And yeah, better is to avoid it. Sometimes it's not possible because our minds are machines as well. And when they grind, when they still are in high gears, when we want to rest, actually, but the stories which are in our head are running wild, then it's not so easy probably. Then there's a good rule of thumb is use your body to calm your mind. And to me it happens often that I I know what I want to do, but then my mind runs so wildly that I lose the grip on it. So I try to breathe like this breathing technique, which is very effective, which often helps is you breathe 4 seconds in, then you hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you breathe out slowly for 8 seconds. And do that in repeat 4 seconds in, 7 seconds holding, and 8 seconds breathe out. While you do a body scan where you try to relax each and every muscle, you try to focus your attention on your fingertips and then your whole fingers, then your whole hand, and try to release the stress. You even apply progressive muscle relaxation. And that's actually what the military people do as well when they are in combat. They are trained to have a high focus, high level of focus with their attentions. Even when they are in the uh, somewhere in the grass or wherever, and they need to sleep for the next 3 hours because they know they will be up again and they need this energy. So they just lay down and they make this body scan, try to do progressive muscle relaxation and do the breathing technique as well. And with that, I often come to a success rate of falling asleep in the next 2 minutes. So for me, it is finding systems which work for you, which help you to avoid bad experiences in sleeping, in movement, and in eating. If you move too little, you feel like shit. If you move too much, probably too. So find thing which works for you. Peyton, how do you find the things which work for you in these realms?
Great principles there. I do think that you pointed out really well this relationship of balance and moderation to apply toward much of this. I think that it's totally wise to honor our bodies. And at the same time, there's a lot of trade-offs in life. There's a lot of things that come up. There's a lot of times when we have an intention to follow a habit, but circumstances will dictate that something else happens. There will be some nights when we go to bed later than we wish, and sometimes for good reasons. And so I think it is partly about having this awareness of what does this situation need from me right now, and acceptance and forgiveness of ourselves when we fall short of what our intentions are. And then a reminder that this is a long game. I think doing something 80% of the time for 50 years is more valuable than doing it 100% of the time for 2 months and then getting burned out because we're being unreasonable with ourselves. These are elements of habit manipulation, as well as forgiving ourselves for doing just a tiny, tiny little amount and trying to stay consistent rather than being perfectionist and overly demanding. I think that two elements that you did point to are that are not separable from health that it took me a while to realize how inseparable these were. One is cortisol, our stress, And this one's tricky because if we overly resist the circumstances that are leading to our cortisol when we're still in them, it can make the problem worse. But at the same time, it's a reason to be intentional about the environments and circumstances that we commit to in the future and maybe learn from the experiences that we must experience and have to pass through. And then we adjust our priorities a little bit different next time. Connection is another one. Talking to humans, having relationships, feeling this physical touch, feeling this shared energy and presence. This is something that I totally neglected for a period of my life, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because I was very consumed by my work mission and I didn't believe that I had any time or energy to be intentional about spending time with friends or cultivating relationships in the city where I had just moved. I discovered that this was not separable from my body mind system. Our connection with other humans is an important component of health and of longevity, believe it or not. It really correlates with how things go in the long run of our whole system, and systems that you wouldn't think are associated with human connection are in the end, in the long run. And then the last note that I have on this is sometimes we're going to be sick. And so this is kind of this relationship of vulnerability that we have in these systems. This week, you and I were both sick, and
Mhm.
it sucks to be sick in some ways and sometimes it's worse than others. And I think that when we find ourselves in that situation, kind of like I am today about to sneeze,
Mhm.
this is an opportunity in the end, an opportunity for surrender and acceptance, an opportunity to look at how I was completely taking my energy and physical state for granted 3 days ago before I was sick. And now I'm very much not taking that for granted. And also an opportunity to enrich our compassion or elevate our compassion for other people, empathy for other people, our understanding that some people feel way worse than this all the time and they will for the rest of their life. That's a real reality for a lot of people. And it may be my reality one day. I may be 6 years away from that becoming my baseline state for the rest of my existence, for all I know. And so, this just feeling of not taking this incredible blessing for granted, not feeling like we don't have this immense wealth in our own body, in our capacity to see, in our capacity to hear, in our ability to move. All of these things are precious gifts for us to steward, for us to appreciate, and for us to recognize that we don't know how temporary they are. And lots of people have to go without the things that are invisible to us, despite them being so essential to the way that we exist day to day. So this is a part of my intention as I continue to recover, to have these awarenesses in my mind, to have gratitude for how well I normally feel, to have an acceptance and surrender to how so much of this system is outside of my control, despite all of the intentionality that I apply to what's within my control, and a renewed sense of empathy and hesitancy to judge people that I don't know what they're going through, and certainly to have a baseline level of compassion for humanity as a whole, because all of us are going to experience sickness, pain, disease on this journey. Even if we haven't experienced it greatly yet, it awaits us all. So these are some of my intentions for these moments when we do find ourselves wanting one thing. How about you, man? What are your intentions broadly, and how do you think the wise way to hold sickness when we find ourselves in the midst of it?
So my broad intentions this week is to take all the books that I have about habits and apply like 10 to 30 minutes each day to work with the tools they provide so that I can get clear about the system and how I want to implement them. Because in the end, like you said, it's all about the systems we deploy in our life, which can carry us either towards being good stewards of our health, happiness, wealth, and whatever, or systems which rob us of our energy. Therefore, I need to figure out what is worth keeping and what is worth repeating and what is worth leaving, and therefore need these tools. Tiny Habits from BJ Fogg and James Clear's Atomic Habits I'm thinking about. These are the books I will go back to this week. And what is the wise way to approach it? I really think it comes down to gratitude for when we have it. And there we go back to the Stoic principle of negative visualization. When we have it,
Yes.
imagining will be gone one day, then we feel this higher appreciation towards what we already have. So being grateful then means wanting what you already have. How good is it? Because you don't even need to reach it anymore because you already have it.
Yes.
It is this mental practice which is probably wise to, from time to time, apply to yourself when you feel good, when you feel well. That in the times when it comes down to being sick and needing to recover, that we find the strength through perspective in saying to ourselves, oh, this may be only a 1 day situation. Maybe this is a 3 day situation. And then I'm grateful for having 2 legs and eyes to see and hands to feel, to move. So let's make the best out of this. Any closing
Agreed.
thoughts, Hayden?
Let's make the best out of it, my friend. You summed it up perfectly. I will talk to you soon, brother.
Talk to you soon, my friend. Bye bye.
Bye.